Since the age of 7, science and astronomy has captured the imagination of Dr. Hugh Ross. At 17, he became the youngest person ever to serve as Director of Observations for Vancouver's Royal Astronomical Society. And he completed his undergraduate degree in physics at the University of British Columbia and earned graduate degrees in astronomy at the University of Toronto. As a brilliant PhD scientist, Dr. Ross sees no conflict between faith and science. In fact, he's the president of a science and faith think tank, which he founded in 1986 called Reasons to Believe. He's spoken on more than 300 campuses across North America and overseas, and has authored numerous books, and the latest of which is Navigating Genesis, a scientist's journey through Genesis 1 through 11. Dr. Ross, great to have you back with us.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right off the top, I'm just going to acknowledge that there are different schools of thought, as you well know, on how to interpret Genesis and the creation accounts, and sometimes the debates get rather animated, and it's important to realize, though, that people can hold differing views, and we've had guests on 100 Huntley Street who have different views and interpretations than yours, but it's not something that our salvation hinges on, correct?
That's correct. This is not a salvation issue like when God created the earth or the universe. I do think it's important that we realize that all of humanity is descended from one man and one woman. That's a crucial doctrine that we see in the book of Romans. So we do hold to the view that the humanity is recent, and all of us are the result of the special creation of two people, Adam and Eve. And we do cover the different positions in navigating Genesis, and I think it's actually a helpful tool because non-Christians who've never been to church or read the Bible get caught up in how we Christians debate these issues. So it's a way of reaching out to them, but if we make it clear, this is not a salvation issue, but I do believe it's an evangelism issue. If we Christians can resolve this issue in a peaceful way, it's going to attract non-Christians to enter into dialogue with us.
Right.
But if we continue to fight and treat it like a salvation issue, it turns them off.
Right. I just find the whole discussion fascinating because, and I think it's great to hear from both sides, and there's compelling arguments on both sides, whether it's a young Earth or old Earth creationist viewpoints. But by entering into just good discussions, there's kind of the iron sharpening iron, and just kind of searching for the truth. And I just enjoy the conversation. We don't have it that often here on 100 Huntley Street, but I'm glad you're here because this material is so important. In fact, share why you feel that this book and covering this topic at this time is so vital.
Well, it's the first 11 chapters of Genesis that are the biggest turnoff to people outside the Christian faith. It's the number one reason why they say, I can't take the Bible as the inerrant, inspired Word of God. So if we can get the skeptic past those first 11 chapters, it's like you're home free for the rest of it. You'll actually get them to John 3:16, where they can enter into a relationship with the creator of the universe. And the good news is there's brand new scientific evidence, especially from the last few years, that makes a case for the inerrancy and inspiration of those first 11 chapters far stronger than it was before.
People just get the sense that there are so many scientists out there who are atheists, and they just have no regard for the Bible. They just say, it's just totally incompatible. And so the average Joe out there will say, well, if those brilliant people disregard the Bible, who am I to think that there's any truth there? And I'm not even going to look. That's an issue, isn't it?
Well, it is, but often lay people don't realize there's a lot of believers in the scientific community. It's like any discipline. You'll find believers and unbelievers. And especially in the physical sciences, which I represent, physics and astronomy, the proportion of scientists who believe in God and an afterlife is actually quite high. It's the majority. Now, it's in the life sciences where you find a minority that believe in God and afterlife, but in the physical sciences it's quite different. And particularly in astronomy, because our data comes from the past. When we look at a star or a galaxy, it takes like time to reach us, which means we're getting data from the 6 days. Most biologists are focusing on the present era. That's the 7th day. It's a day when God rests from his work of creation. And so, of course, someone in that area is going to say, we see no evidence for the supernatural handiwork of the Creator. They're looking on the wrong day. You look in the past, in the 6 days, you'll see the handiwork of God everywhere.
Yeah, you say that when you study the stars, the heavens, you're actually looking at the past. And how does that then, how far into the past do you look, and how does that connect with Genesis 1:1?
Well, a phenomenal thing is we astronomers can look back to the very beginning of the universe. We can literally watch God creating the universe. Now, it may seem like an exaggeration, but we got data that goes back to a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second after the cosmic creation event. That's how close we can get to the moment of creation. And I think what's missing for a lot of lay people, if God put us here any earlier in cosmic history, we wouldn't see the whole history of the universe in astronomy. If He put us here any later, we also wouldn't see it. We're living at the one time in cosmic history where we can read the entire book of nature from the beginning of the universe right up to the present. We're also living in the only place in the universe where we can read the whole book. I think God wanted us to read that book.
Right. It's fascinating. You actually, besides just looking at Genesis 1 to 11, you say there's actually dozens of creation accounts in the Bible, and you're how did some of those other accounts, and maybe you can highlight one, help you in interpreting Genesis?
Well, we're talking about these different positions that Christians hold. I'm convinced we could resolve our differences if we simply realize that there are dozens of creation texts in the Bible. For example, you've got Psalm 104, Job 37, 38, and 39, and Proverbs 8. Those are 3 lengthy creation texts that take you to the content of the 6 creation days of Genesis 1. If you simply integrate those 3 texts with Genesis 1, I'm convinced that would settle all the controversies. It's not enough to take the Bible literally. We have to take it literally and consistently. Right. There's a reason why God packed so much creation content in the Bible. The other thing I think is crucial is every major creation text in the Bible links redemption with creation. And what we see in 2 Timothy 1:9, that before God created anything, He had redemption in mind. Redemption comes first. And so that's another good way to resolve the controversies, is realizing all this creation theology in the Bible is in the context of God wanting to redeem the greatest number of human beings to Himself.
And you look at like a dual creation model. There's the one in the past, and then there's another one to happen in the future. Maybe just quickly summarize that.
Well, we see in Genesis 1 that God created this universe and He called it very good. It's the best possible creation God could have designed for His purpose of eliminating evil once and for all and bringing redemption to the greatest number of people. But it's not the ultimate creation. God has a new creation where evil will never exist again. But He needs this creation to prepare us for the new creation. This creation is set in place to eliminate evil, to bring redemption, and the new creation, our free will have been tested by the evil we've gone through, and therefore we can enter into an eternal relationship with God where our free will is actually expanded, but there is zero potential that we'll ever use that free will for evil intent. And that's why there's different physics in the new creation than in this creation. In this creation, we need gravity, we need electromagnetism, we need thermodynamics, because all those are crucial as tools in God's hands to eliminate evil. But in the new creation, there is no gravity, no electromagnetism. Nothing will decay in the new creation. We don't need thermodynamics anymore.
It's so rich, all the teaching and digging into this, and I'm I'm enjoying this book and just seeing different perspectives. Now, on a personal level, how has science and your pursuit of truth in the past, as you were a young man, made a personal difference in your own life?
Well, I was born in Montreal and I grew up in Vancouver, and where my parents settled in Vancouver, there weren't Christians. Yeah. I didn't know any Christians. I went to a public school, and the Gideons gave out Bibles in that public school. Wow. And during my years as a young astronomy student, I realized the universe has a beginning. There's some kind of creative being beyond space and time that created this universe. And that put me on a quest to go through the holy books of the religions of the world. And it was that Gideon Bible that led me to realize, here's a book that matches the book of nature that actually predicted future scientific discoveries. I was amazed to discover this book we call the Bible said that we live in an expanding universe. The universe is traceable back to the beginning of space and time with constant physics, where one of those laws of physics is a pervasive law of decay, which means we must live in a universe that gets progressively colder and colder. The Bible for thousands of years stood alone as the only book that said that about the universe. And I said, okay, this can only be possible if this book is inspired by the one that created the universe. And it was at age 19 that I signed my name in the back of a Gideon Bible, giving my life to Christ. When I arrived at Caltech 8 years later, that's when I met Christians. They showed me how to find a good church, and actually showed me how to find good churches here in Canada. And people don't realize that. If you're not raised in the church, you may not know how to find a good church. That was my struggle.
Wow. And your years of pursuing science has only strengthened your faith, which is an amazing thing. I want to go to a clip that'll show some of the material that's available in this new study, Navigating Genesis, and then we'll be right back. Take a look at this.
Remember that time when someone asked you a question about your faith and you hesitated or stumbled with your answer? Or you heard your science teacher talk about evolution and the evidence seemed overwhelming, but you'd been told everything was made by a creator? Do you remember how you felt? We all know Christians are supposed to share their faith, so why don't we? Do you not know how? Or are you afraid? I think most people have doubts about whether they can even trust the Bible. I want to invite you to be part of a transformational new small group study, Navigating Genesis, with astrophysicist and pastor Dr. Hugh Ross, as he leads us in a series of conversations about one of the most controversial passages in the Bible, Genesis 1 and 2, as we tackle the questions that everyone in our culture is asking. The purpose is to move from feeling embarrassed and uncertain about your faith to feeling confident and equipped to share your beliefs with others. It's time to discover for yourself all the reasons you truly have to believe.
Great stuff. And the book Navigating Genesis is on our e-store. You can connect with us for that. But all the materials, this group study, the kit, you can find on your website. Dr. Hugh Ross is?
Reasons.org.
Reasons.org. And a lot of great material just by exploring that website as well. So, well, thank you so much for being here. Now, we've asked you to record some extra segments and just kind of answering some of those top questions that people ask, just in short, digestible bites of answers. And so they're going to be on our crossroads360.com website. And so I appreciate you doing that. And so you can be looking for that very soon on Crossroads 360. But thank you again for coming by. God bless you in your ongoing ministry. And it's so vital that we just be able to give reasons. I know the scripture verse that refers to it, be ready.
1 Peter 3:15, always be ready to give good reasons for the hope within you with gentleness, respect, and a clear conscience.
And what I appreciate about you is the gentleness and respect portion of that you do that, whether you're debating with another believer about the interpretation with gentleness and respect, or with those of no faith. So keep up the great work, and God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.